My name is Jordan Abu-Elhawa. I am the new kid on the block. I just got to Santa Fe last month, and I'm kind of bringing my passions and my dharma, so to speak, with me. I'm a vegan activist wherever I go, in whatever capacity I can be. So today that's the capacity of cooking and education, but wherever I'm needed, I try to show up because I really believe in this cause. So hopefully you'll resonate with some of those things tonight as well. Want to give you a brief overview of what's going to happen tonight. First of all, not knowing how many people we're going to show up, we may have to be kind of modest with food and serving sizes and all of that. So just so that you're mentally prepared, it won't be a full feast for every single person, but hopefully you'll get full-on flavor instead. And then, as far as the order tonight, we're going to start off with the cooking, and specifically, we're going to get right into the nog, so y'all can start sipping on that. And then we'll make and eat, and kind of discuss and answer questions as it's happening, if that makes sense. And then at the very end, we'll have a short intermission. Depending on what time it is, I'll decide how much then, so that you can grab more food and eat and all of that. And then we're going to try to move out into the conference room area so that we can do part 2 of the night, which, if you didn't read on the flyer, is going to be a little Jeopardy-style info session, so to speak, where the intention is to empower you with all the knowledge you may need to answer those pesky questions you might get asked at the holidays about vegan cuisine or the vegan diet or the ethics of veganism or any of those kinds of things. Hopefully we'll cover some of those bases so that any of you feeling a little anxiety about going home might, sleep a little better before the holiday. So that's the overview for tonight. You probably already signed in, but just so that it's clear, there are no paper recipes tonight. But if you are interested, please write your name and your email down out there, and I'll send you a digital copy after this is over within the next couple days so that you can have it for your records. And if you're also interested, I can send you any copies of the PowerPoint or any information that I present at the end as well. So I think that covers all the bases. Tony, thank you for inviting me here tonight. Really appreciate you helping to set this up. And also, I should introduce, this is my partner, lover, best friend, Asher, and she'll be helping me out tonight in the kitchen. So thank you. Cool. All right, y'all ready for some nog?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So, let's pull some things out. Alright, so the first thing to say tonight is there's a few mock meals going on here, and everyone has a different relationship to mock food, right? Me personally, I eat from the garden as much as possible. I don't tend to buy plant-based meats and cheeses, but we pull out the special stuff for the holidays, right? So that being said, some of these more traditional holiday items we have tonight are not going to be necessarily duplicates of what you're used to having, but they serve the same function, right? And they're delicious in their own way. So just bear that in mind tonight. You can't really, replace egg and heavy cream exactly 1-to-1 for eggnog, but you can create a thick, spicy, delicious, cold drink that serves the same function, right? And so tonight, in order to do that, we're going to use soy milk, And this product, which is called Silken Tofu. Is anyone not familiar with this product? Raise your hand. Really? Only one? Everyone else uses this every day, huh? Yeah, sure.
How firm is the tofu?
It's soft. Soft silken tofu. So, for those of you that don't know, tofu is essentially just soy cheese. Seriously, it's a very similar process. They take soy milk and they add coagulants, usually some kind of salt, until it curds at the top, and then they press the curds, and that's tofu. Silken tofu is a little easier even than that, because they don't have to create the curds. They just add this salt called nigari, which is what's left over from seawater after you boil out the water and take out the salt. And once they add that nigari, this thing sets up within 15 seconds. Watch it on YouTube. It's really crazy to watch. But soy milk turns to this block of silken tofu. So that's what it is, in case you're a little dubious about this product. But it's very clean, very healthy. So that's going to be our main thickening agent for tonight. We're going to use some unsweetened organic soy milk. And while I don't have time to address the concern in full length, I know that there are growing concerns today about soy and allergies and health, and is it going to give me man boobs and all this kind of crazy folklore. Just know most of it is BS, okay? Most of it that's being marketed to you by the dairy industry, propaganda to make their product seem superior. But the bottom line is, from a health standpoint, soy is great, super high in protein, super high in minerals, super high in omega-3s. Just make sure you always get it organic, okay, for various reasons. Glyphosate, the prime ingredient in Roundup, is very dangerous to your health and is extra dangerous with soy, okay? You get organic, you're probably good to go unless you have an allergy. So tonight we're doing 2 cups of soy. We're going to do 1 frozen banana. This adds creaminess and sweetness. And I already did the work, but just so you know, one little trick with this is you can actually freeze bananas right in the peel, if you didn't know already. Save yourself some time and effort. And then what you do is you take your banana out of the freezer, you put it in a bowl of hot water. Let it sit there for about a minute, and that peel comes right off, just slips right off the whole banana, and you've got your frozen banana. That way it keeps better in your freezer instead of cutting it up first.
How hot should the water be?
As hot as possible. The hotter, the better.
Wait, how many people do the banana trick? I never heard of that. Never.
All right. So we're going to do 1 banana, 2 cups of soy. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, roughly. We're going to do 1/3 cup maple syrup. And then this is a spice mixture which you will get via email if you put your email down. But basically it is cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, and clove. So that's that. That's it.
Where did you move from?
Yeah, I guess I didn't do the mini bio, huh?
No.
So immediately before this, I was living at the Llama Foundation, north of Taos, New Mexico. If you're familiar, it's an intentional spiritual community that I lived at for a year and a half. And I spent some time in Illinois the past couple years as well. So. All right. Oh, and we forgot our main ingredients, silken tofu. Yeah, thank you. That's important. All right, so plug your ears if you're sensitive. This will go for the next 30 seconds or so. You gotta love the Vitamix, right?
Yeah.
Anyone have a Vitamix at home?
Oh.
All right, wow, big crowd. We should get a promo commercial going here or something. All right, so that's our nog. I'm gonna pour it in with the rest of the batch, which is all the same. And find a ladle here. Let's see. Ladle.
Which step do you put in the alcohol?
I'm sorry?
Which step do you put in the alcohol?
Every step.
Is that what
if
you
you're...
know? Just wondering.
No, in all honesty, I don't drink, but feel free. If you'd like, I think the best alcohol to pair with this is rum. So you are welcome to add a little bit of rum too. I would say per batch, it's going to be in the realm of like half a cup.
Yeah, like a shot per serving.
Right, a shot per serving or so. And that is that. Now the interesting question is if this will come out a spout, or if we need to ladle it out.
We'll have to hang it over the end.
Yes, indeed. Got it. All right, it's coming. Hey, it's coming. Great. So, great. Yeah, if you could help, that would be so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll start passing this out.
Do you want this size?
Yeah, those or these, whichever. Doesn't matter. There's.
Probably enough for.
I'd probably be.
For 35.
No, I would say start with these. Yeah, so that's the nog. And just to give you a reference, so tonight I'm kind of going also from most easy to most difficult in recipe. So if you're the kind of person who just wants to like throw something together before the party, not think too hard about it, then by all means bring the nog. Okay? If you really want to be a showstopper and go for gold, then by all means spend a couple days prepping the Beefless Bourguignon, like I'm going to show you at the end of the night. But just know that there's something for everyone, no matter how much effort you want to put in. Let's see, a couple of fun facts while they're passing this out. So, first of all, clove, if you didn't know, there's a little bit of clove in all of this. It's actually the most antioxidant dense spice in the world.
Wow.
By like probably 5 or 6 fold from the next lowest spice. So, hey, by all means, if you like clove, load up on clove. Your arteries will thank you. Also, I already mentioned tofu's very, very healthy in a number of ways. Banana. So I guess where I'm going is this is actually, relatively speaking, while it's desserty in nature, it's pretty clean and it's pretty healthy. You can feel in good conscience much more so than having egg and heavy cream, giving this to your friends and family. Are there any questions about the nog while it's being passed out? It's pretty self-explanatory, but...
What is nog?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It must be sweet. Everything is sweet.
Yeah.
Yes?
Does it turn brown or you should just make it right before serving?
That's a good question, yeah. So the question was, does it turn brown? And the answer is if you use banana, yes. Over time it will oxidize because bananas oxidize and turn brown. So if you want to make it ahead, my recommendation would be to omit the banana and then just add more sweetener of your choice since the banana adds a little sweetness, and maybe cut back on the soy milk a little bit since it won't be as creamy. But you can absolutely do that and it won't brown. So.
Did you see the little delinquents over here who brought their own rum?
I saw that.
They brought rum. You are so busted.
There's one more product. If I can just show you this really quick while they're passing this out. How is it, by the way? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? All right, great. So I just want to show you this product really quick. And full disclosure, I make no money off this company at all, but I do like their product. It's called Swerve. Anyone not familiar with this? Okay, great. So Swerve is made from something called a sugar alcohol, which actually is a byproduct of sugar fermenting, and so actually contains no sugar at all, which is really great because it can be used to substitute for 1-to-1 for granular cane sugar, and is almost as sweet, and on top of that, has very few, if any, health concerns that go along with it. It's a sugar alcohol called erythritol, which actually has mild antioxidant properties, and is not quite as sweet as cane sugar, and pretty much 0 calories. So I highly recommend this if you're someone who's sugar-free or trying to watch the amount of sugar in your diet rather than adding maple syrup. Feel free to add some erythritol. It is one of the, in my opinion, one of the cleanest, safest ones to use. Yes?
What's your feeling about stevia?
So stevia is everyone's heard of stevia, I assume at this point. So stevia is is basically the concentrated extract from this leaf down in South America. And it's not sugar, it contains no sugar, but it stimulates very similar receptors on the tongue and is intensely sweet. So people have leaned towards using stevia in recent days. My recommendation is if you like stevia, fine. Just don't, and this goes with any sugar substitute really, is don't use it in excess. What happens, the research shows with stevia over time, is that if you use large amounts of it regularly, I'm talking like drops and drops in your tea every single morning and night, then you start to cultivate a certain strain of bacteria in your gut, which is threatening to your microbiome. Okay? So, you can't cheat Mother Nature, right? Mother Nature knows whether or not you're trying to use cane sugar, stevia, or whatever. You use too much of it, you're going to get in trouble, right? So just with all sugar substitutes, be a little wary. This doesn't have the same, in the research at least, this doesn't show the same threat level in terms of changing your biome or anything, but still shouldn't be overindulged, right? Anytime you add tons of sweet onto your tongue, you're going to manipulate your brain to expect all that sweetness, and that causes problems in the long term. So, all right. Any more questions about?
Do you already say where you get it? Yeah.
Oh, you can get this at the co-op, La Montanita. You can also get this at Whole Foods. I've seen it in both places. So yeah, I would say.
In the sugar section?
Yes, in the sugar section. Yeah.
Well, monk fruit. What do you think about monk fruit?
Monk fruit also. It's kind of on the same level with erythritol. I don't find it quite as versatile because it's got some flavors that I don't like to pair well with everything. But monk fruit is another more benign sugar substitute for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
You can bake with this?
You can bake with this. Yes, you can bake with this. Yes.
So, probably a few people here are gluten-free. Could you tell us if any of your products have gluten in them?
Yes, thank you for asking. So the only product that technically contains gluten tonight is the salad, which has sprouted wheat berries. I can show you right now. Here they are. So here's my bag of sprouted wheat berries. I just sprouted them the past couple of weeks. So this is, if you don't know, this is the grain that they take and then they grind up into flour. And they sift out for all purpose and all that sort of thing. But this is the whole grain. This is the full nutrient-dense way nature delivers it. In my experience, personally, and with talking to other people, people don't tend to have digestive issues with this, with the actual wheat berry that comes out of the ground. They have problems with the refined, highly concentrated forms of wheat, like wheat gluten, vital wheat gluten that's put in processed foods and all those sorts of things. So if you're feeling wary, feel free to avoid, but I would assert my confidence that you'll probably be finding in some sprouted seeds. If you're celiac, of course, completely avoid it. Is there anyone celiac here tonight? Okay, just making sure. Cool. But that's the only product with gluten. So. Cool. I've talked a lot. Let's get on to salad. And Cashew, if you
Yeah.
And no, there's plenty of vanilla left, so why don't we, I don't know how to invite them to have more than yeah, probably have. I'm just going to put this back in the fridge.
Get some more later.
Yes. I just want to say really quick too that there's actually a good amount of nog left. So if you liked it, we'll at the end of the class bring it back out. So keep your little cup if you're interested. Okay. Thank God for good people helping out. Thank you to all the helping hands in the background. So we're going to move on to the salad. So this salad is festive in that it contains ingredients that you don't normally see in a salad, right? So I call it a festive fennel salad. So by fennel, I mean fennel bulb, if you're not familiar, not the tiny spice seed, but the whole leafy green. And fennel can be kind of intense if you haven't tried it already. And so in order to make that a little bit more palatable, we're going to slice it really thin. And so that we don't spend all night doing that, we're going to use the aid of a mandolin. Is everyone familiar with a mandolin? So if you're not, it's an absolutely wonderful kitchen tool that I highly recommend having around. This, they're like 20, 30 bucks. It's not a huge investment, but can really save you a lot of time. So I'm just going to give you an example of that. The cons as well. That other oh, here it is. All right, found it. So this is fennel root. If you're not familiar, this is the leafy part. So what we're going to do with this is run it through the mandolin. So this thing is great because I can change the depth of that really sharp triangular blade and make as thin as I want, down to 1 millimeter. So this is what we're going to use to get our really thin slices really fast. This is to grip the fennel so that I don't cut myself. And all I got to do is run it up and down. All right, so you saw how fast that was. That would have taken me about 5 times longer. And here's our fennel. right? So there it is, super shaved thin. And yeah, the rest of the salad is coming together as we speak. Basically, tonight we've got roasted pecans. We've got some also thinly sliced pear. We have arugula, spinach, the fennel, and then the sprouted wheat berries. And then you have two choices of dressing tonight. We're going to dress each bowl individually. I'm going to pull those out right now. Do you know where the balsamic?
Yeah.
So this is the first one. This is kind of a, I don't even know what to call this because all right, full disclosure. So I was actually going to serve a vegan feta cheese that I made at home. And the strangest thing happened. You ever have this happen where you make the same recipe 10 times and the 11th time something changes? And it didn't quite get as firm. So what did I do? I took it and I made it into a dressing instead. So this is kind of a, you could call it a cheesy feta dressing with Mediterranean herbs that we'll pour on one salad. And then this is a raspberry balsamic reduction. Has anyone made balsamic reduction before?
Not really.
Yes? Okay. So it's a fancy name for something so stupid simple. You take balsamic vinegar and you simmer it on the stove until the volume is lower. You boil away the water, it becomes thicker and sweeter and more tangy, and that's balsamic reduction. If you ever see that listed at a restaurant, say, oh, whatever, that's not a big deal. Sounds fancy, but it's really not that big of a deal. I can do that. So that's exactly what I did. No brainer. Boiled the balsamic vinegar for a few minutes, reduced it, and then I added a little bit of this product, which I had actually never seen before last week. It's a raspberry vinegar, and it is very thick, very strong, raspberry flavored deliciousness. I've never found anything quite like it on the market. Usually it's just like blended raspberries or something. But this I found at Whole Foods. So if you like the dressing here, I added basically 4 parts balsamic vinegar reduction and then 1 part of this raspberry. So that's this dressing. So I'll let you choose your poison, so to speak.
Do you want those added to the salads or people to choose?
No, add 1 of each to each salad, toss it in, and then people can make a choice about which salad they want.
One of them won't have wheat berries for sweetness.
That's fine.
Okay, so which one?
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay.
Is there creamy dressing made out of again?
So yes, thank you. So the cheese that I was going to bring, that I turned into a dressing anyway, it's actually mostly tofu, along with some lemon juice, white wine vinegar, and spices. And again, I'll send this to you all digitally if you're interested. But it's very simple. You food process it until it's smooth. You put it in the fridge. And then normally you take it out and it crumbles and it holds its shape and it's really beautiful, delicious vegan feta. And said tonight it's a dressing. But, yeah.
So we get both.
You get both. That's right. The last thing I'm going to throw into this salad, if I have the time, which I think I hopefully do, is mint. And we're going to chiffonade some of this mint. It's a really fancy French term. You know, cooking's full of these stupid fancy French names. It really pisses me off sometimes. Because it's like, I don't speak French, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm expected to be able to say it in front of a crowd, right? So I had to do my homework. But chiffonade is basically just a fancy word for really thin shreds, okay? So what we're going to do to chiffonade our mint is essentially stack the leaves. And I'll just demo this and then I'll get going on it.
If you move the milk, people can see
Yes,
better.
yes, thank you. Sorry about the visual.
Some people can see better.
So, might be a little bit difficult to see. But essentially what you do is you take your mint leaves, you stack them up, right? Everyone see that?
Yeah.
Then you roll it up like a cigar. I don't smoke, by the way. And once it's tight and rolled up, you take your knife and you just use the rolling technique, which is really fluid, straight motions, going down the line very carefully until you get to the end. As simple as that. And I'm going to do a little bit more of this and add this to the salad. Yeah, I think those are pretty close. Yeah. Did you see that?
Where did you learn all this?
That's a great question. I am 99% self-taught. I started cooking about 5 years ago, actually after an unfortunate incident of being a naive college junior and trying to attempt to make food for my girlfriend who was very hungry, rushing off to her orchestra rehearsal, and instead made her ill because I made such a terrible dinner. At which point I decided, you know what? Maybe this cooking thing I should try to figure out. You know, I really should be better than making my girlfriend sick. So that's when I signed up for some online cooking courses and started getting really into the food culture. And ever since then, I've just kind of kept learning and growing and doing more classes and stuff. So she asked why I started learning cooking. That's the gist of it.
To impress the ladies.
To impress the ladies. Full disclosure. Full disclosure. Now I cook for the animals, you know, but, you know, full disclosure is for the ladies in the beginning. All right, so are there any last questions about the salad? It's pretty, sprouting. Do you all know how to sprout? Anyone not know how to sprout? Be honest. Okay, good. So let's talk about sprouting. So sprouting is very, very easy, and it's really not much different than what you would do if you were planting seeds out in the garden, right? It's pretty much the same process, only in your kitchen. So when you're sprouting whatever it is, wheat berries or sunflower seeds or whatever other plant seed, all you have to do is soak it overnight. This is called the activation stage, which marketers love to play up, by the way. I recently went to a new opening in town, and I saw all these fancy food items, one of which was a 3-ounce cardboard bag of oats, rolled oats. And the price tag said $20. And I said, I've never paid that much for rolled oats before. These must be like the panacea oats. These must cure every disease on the planet, I'm sure, for that price. And in fact, I read on the label that they were activated oats. And that means they were soaked in water. So, if you want to pay an extra $19 per pound for some soaked oats, please, by all means, don't do this at home. Go buy from the store. If you feel brave enough, though, please, all you have to do when you're sprouting at home, take your seeds, soak it overnight, drain it off, and then you just want to keep it wet throughout the day. So take your little stink sprayer, spray it down 3 or 4 times periodically throughout the day, and let it dry in between until you start to see little sprouts come out. It takes about 2 days, 2 to 4 days, depending on the seed. And you get some extra nutritional value, and you get a fun project to do with the family and all those kinds of things. So it's as simple as that.
And you keep it on the counter, you don't put it in the refrigerator.
That's right. Yep. Ideally, you keep it in a semi-cold and dark environment. So you keep a cloth over it or something like that. But that's essentially sprouting. So feel free to do it at home instead of paying in a leg for it.
And once they're sprouted, you refrigerate them?
Yes. Once they're sprouted, you refrigerate them, and depending on another seed, you get about a week or 2 before they ferment them. Salad's ready to go?
Yeah, we were just going to check in. Do you think it's best to serve now or at the end? Just because when it gets cold.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, we thought we shifted there.
That's true. Are you all okay with that? We're reconsidering with the amount of people here that maybe it'll be more efficient to just serve everything at the end. Everyone okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yes. So let's do that. All right. Any final questions about this salad? I know you haven't tried it yet. Hey, you want to show off your beautiful work?
Here's your beautiful work.
Gotta get one of those things.
Yes, almost. Are you?
How did you roast the pecan?
We're getting
Okay, whose was better?
They both are equally. I know, I
So I heard a question about pecans, how did I roast the pecans? So, very simple, if you have a convection setting, that's better. On your oven, turn that on. And then about 300 degrees for about 10 minutes. Basically until they're very, you could candy them. You know, add sugar to it, but you could candy them. How's everyone feeling so far? Good? Okay, so let's move on. All right, so creamy cauliflower soup. You know, I was really surprised and delighted to learn that most people seem to be really into that the most out of everything listed. Anyone interested in the creamy cauliflower soup? All right, cool. Well, you're in luck because this is both one of the most delicious and one of the most simple soups that I know to make. So, again, this is kind of catering to the people who, you know, don't want to think too hard about this kind of thing come Christmas time. Just make it happen. So, creamy cauliflower soup, we have all of it in the pots at the moment. We're going to start blending it in batches. But this soup is very simple. Essentially, we start off with a mirepoix. Anyone familiar with that crazy French term? What does it mean? Anyone who's raised their hand?
Onions and carrots.
Yeah. So normally mirepoix is the full set: celery, onion, and carrots, just like she said. In this case, it's just our onion, and then we add in, after it's been sautéed lightly and made translucent, where it's partly see-through, you add in your minced garlic. You toss that all together with roasted cauliflower. Submerge it in a bunch of vegetable broth, bring it all to a boil until it's soft, and blend it with a couple of added spices. That's the process in and of itself. I've gotten a lot of the work done in front, so we're basically going to show you the blending process at the end. Are we about ready to do that, Asher?
Yeah, it should be ready, and then the corn and cashew butter is right over here already measured out.
Great. So, let's get started with that.
Do you make your own vegetable broth?
I do, yeah. So this vegetable broth I made at home. It's actually not for the soup tonight, it's for the bourguignon. But vegetable broth, anyone not made that before? Okay, so very, very simple. You take a mirepoix, usually, of carrots, celery, and onions. Oftentimes mushroom and tomato as well, along with some woody herbs, usually thyme or rosemary or oregano, something like this. You put it all in a pot, you cover it in water, and you just let it boil. And you know, a lot of online recipes will tell you, oh, boil for an hour and a half. They're lying. I'm telling you, I've tried it a million different ways. You can do it, but it won't turn out nearly as flavorful that way. The longer it goes, the better. So it's kind of like a crock chili or something. You want to let it simmer as long as you can. I let this thing simmer for like probably 16 hours or something. Because I could and I made the time. But the longer you let it simmer, the more flavors you're going to pull out of all that veg and herb. Does that make sense? Once you're done, you're calling it quits. You put it into a strainer, get out all of the roughage, and you're left with vegetable bouillon, which you can use in 1,000,001 things. And I recommend to keep its shelf life, pouring it into ice cube trays, and then you can put it in the freezer and have little ice cubes worth of bouillon to just pull out and add to your soups or anything like that. So that's vegetable bouillon. We're going to actually also use a product called Better Than Bouillon tonight. There's a lot of varieties of this stuff. I actually really like the flavor. So tonight, we're going to use a combination of the chickenless or no chicken base. Yes, no chicken. I promise it's vegan. And then seasoned vegetable as well. Combination of the two. So, go through this process. I use a kitchen scale at home, by the way, instead of measuring volumes whenever I can. I find it's more accurate. Again, a $20 investment that really goes a long way. So I do recommend that. We're also going to need a pot for the soup. Yeah. Oh, you already put the stock. All right, y'all, so we're all set up now. And rubber spatula. All right, so creamy cauliflower soup, here we go. So again, what's in this pot, just to make it demystified, is cauliflower, onion, garlic, and then a combination again of these two, and I'll send you the specifics via email, no chicken base and vegetable bouillon. We're going to put this in our blender. Again, I highly recommend the Vitamix. I've never used another blender that can get things quite so smooth or that can be so versatile. I'm sure half of the audience who has one can attest.
Yes. A submersible blender.
Yes, there are also immersion blenders which could do this job as well.
I have a question about that particular blender.
Yes.
You're putting things in so hot. Most blenders can't handle that. This one can?
This one absolutely can, yeah. I put this thing through the ringer. This plastic will not melt. It will not hold color. It will not hold odors. no matter if it's garlic, onion, it's just, I don't know what they make this thing out of. Like, I don't know how they make it, but I'm telling you, it's a miracle. This plastic is very bulletproof. Dropped it on concrete floors probably 24 times. I'm a clumsy person. Nothing ever, I can't break it. So that's saying a lot, honestly. So, the other ingredients in this soup. So, okay, we're calling it a creamy cauliflower soup for 2 reasons. 1, it's rich. 2, it's smooth. This handles the smooth part. What handles the creamy part is cashews. So this is cashew butter. You can use either. It doesn't take very much. But tonight I'm going to use cashew butter just because it emulsifies a little more easily. I'm going to put this in. Now this is for the entire quantity for the night. You don't use nearly this much cashew butter just for one batch like I'm doing now. But it's all going to come together anyway at the end, so I'm just combining it.
It's about to fall. Yeah, it's slipping off here.
I think we're all right.
You did say it's laundry.
Oh, I guess that's a good question, huh? So someone just asked, what's in cashew butter? You know, I'm often surprised at how mysterious nut butters and nut milks can be to people. But let me just clear the air on it. A nut butter is just the nut. That's it. If it's cashew butter, it's just cashews, in theory. If it's almond butter, it's just almonds. Now sometimes manufacturers add a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt to make it more addictive, but nut butter in and of itself is just the nut or seed. That is to say, if you want to make it at home, shoot, all you need is a food processor. So stop paying $10 for a little container of it, take your food processor at home, roast your nuts, put them in, push the button and walk away. Come back 10 minutes later, you have nut butter. It's really as simple as that. So that's what I did for this cashew butter. All I did is throw cashews in the food processor, and here it is, all buttered for you.
No moisture,
no moisture. Moisture is the enemy with nut butter. You add something with water in it, it's going to ruin the whole consistency. So that's why you want to roast your nuts ahead of time, dry them out, and then add them to the food processor. And it's as simple as that. Scrape the sides when you have to. 10 minutes later, you'll have this.
What about soaking them, then dry them?
No, don't do that.
Not
well, you could do that. You could. I have done it. It gets to be a little bit problematic. If you don't have a good oven with a convection cycle, some might retain water still, and then your nut butter doesn't turn out. So I recommend not doing that, but you could. All right, so I'm going to... Try to get all of that goodness into the blender.
I just don't like to clean up that Just wash yourself.
What's taking so long? Hurry up, quickly.
All right. The last thing we're going to add to this soup is curry powder.
Oh, really?
What? Oh, great. It's already been added. Fear not.
Really, was it the thing she said?
It's already been added.
So what color currant?
I'm sorry?
What color currant can't put the...
Yellow. Yeah, yellow curry powder. So we're going to blend this up. Again, excuse the noise. So you can, well, you can't see maybe, but this is very, very smooth now. You want to smell that? How's it smell?
Nice.
Nice. So we're going to put this into our pot, and now all we have to do is continue to batch this. And we're going to serve this tonight. You can serve this with whatever you want, just as is. It's super delicious. But you can also add little toppings. What I've brought tonight is some caramelized corn. one that's very chewy, for those of you who like the really chewy, deep caramelized corn, and one that's just lightly caramelized. So this is one of my favorite toppings, along with some minced green onion on top, maybe a pinch of nutmeg and black pepper, and it's pretty dynamite. But again, the Vitamix makes quick work of all these things. So, yes?
Make your own caramelized toast?
I'm sorry?
Caramelized corn?
Yeah, I made it. Yeah, so caramelization, again, is a very, very simple process. Essentially, all you're doing is you're drawing out and browning the sugars in whatever it is that you are caramelizing. Corn, it's as simple as taking a cast iron skillet, putting maybe a dash of earth balance optionally into the skillet, moving it around occasionally, scraping off the bottom until you get those kinds of beautiful browns mixed in, which means the sugar's starting to come out and get browned on the outside. Once it's pretty uniformly browned, or golden I should say, your corn is caramelized. And you can do that with anything. You can do that with onions, probably the most common example. But anything that has sugar will caramelize, I assure you.
And what were you putting in the pan? When you first, before you put the corn in, what did you put in?
Earth balance. And that's optional. That's optional. If you have a very well-seasoned cast iron pan, you won't need it. If you're using a solid steel pan, it's more likely to scorch. I recommend using just a dash of, you can use, well, no. In terms of caramelizing, you'd have to use a dash of oil. Be conservative with it, but yeah, you can use a dash of Earth Balance or any other oil. What is Earth Balance? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I didn't think to say. This is Earth Balance. If you're not familiar, it's a vegan butter, which is to say it contains no dairy products. What is it actually? It's just an oil blend, basically, with some flavors and salt. But functions one-to-one perfectly for any recipe, baking, stovetop, or otherwise, that you would normally use cow's milk butter for. So I highly recommend this if you're, yes?
I would also recommend Miyoko's butter.
Yes.
It's a naturally cooked butter. You can get it at Trader Joe's
Totally.
or anywhere. And that one this one tastes to me a little more like margarine.
Yes.
And Miyoko's is like butter.
Yes.
So.
Well said, yes. So if you have the money to spend, by all means, go big. Go get Miyoko's cultured butter. It's definitely more fancy, more legitimate, has more of a tang to it like butter, and it's an excellent product. I highly recommend it. And that's mostly coconut. Yeah, so that's Earth Balance. And again, we'll serve these at the end. I'm just going to put these over here. Any questions about the soup? I'm going to continue pureeing this for just a moment. Before the Vitamix goes, this is your chance. All right, think about it. I'm going to keep Vitamixing for a second. Actually, that was half of it, right? Cashew butter?
Yeah, the other half is under here.
And I was thinking I should bring these recipes sometimes, and I can yeah, but last week she was at Southern. Yeah, this week she went to work. And then she said next to oh, she I guess she's at a bar. But she said to sell at the bar still. Yeah, I said, were you joking or what? She's like, she had one drink at 5:30, no 7. Anyway, she said she was expecting half tired, even more than really hot. And then the next thing she was like laying on the ground for like ice cream or she was like, all the ambulance.
Cashew, cauliflower, onion, garlic, raw.
She just, you know, and they said she was willing to pay out of so I sent her a list of everything that has potassium. Not really, I just sent like 10 things, but you know, like, she's a nurse. She should know. But I don't know why that happens. I think she has it's not good. I hope that,
But the other place,
and then I decide once I'm take a nap. She drives everywhere. I'll be the only one that's gonna listen to it. But, we don't have any other things. It'll be a 2-hour day. My brother is my sister married.
All right, y'all. So just want to point out a couple more things before we move on. And I'm actually, yeah, I'll tell you in a second. Anyone familiar with what this is? Yeah. Yes, it's a silicone mat. So this is to be used in the oven. You can put this on your baking sheets or other baking appliance, whatever, baking sheets. And the reason for this is it makes your entire sheet non-stick. So now you don't need disposable parchment and aluminum foil. You don't need to oil your sheet. All you have to do is put it right down on this thing. Promise you, I've used it many times. Nothing's going to stick to it.
Where'd you get that?
so you just put the food on top of that?
You just put the food right on top of this. This I got at the local restaurant supply store called Chef Link, and it's about 12 bucks. It's not that bad. And the big health, so there's 2 advantages. One, it saves you time in the kitchen, and you don't have to worry so much about scorching your veggies. But number 2, from a health perspective, it means you don't have to oil all your veggies so much, right? And this is a bad habit, in my opinion, that we Americans have gotten into is, I'm going to take this cauliflower, I'm going to toss it in tons of olive oil or something like this and roast it. Okay, well, sure, it'll work. But first of all, I think it dulls the flavor overall of any other spices. But number 2, from a health perspective, oil is not very healthy, right? And it's actually one of the main contributors to all the excess calories that we're eating, why we're so fat in this country. So I only use it very sparingly when I absolutely have to, and this makes my life easier. I don't need to use oil when I roast my veggies when I have one of these things. So that's a more in-depth topic you can ask me about afterwards, but just know that these are pretty cheap and very effective. I highly recommend them whenever you're roasting in the oven. Yes?